My next guest built his first business in the 90s and eventually sold it for about $20 million just around the time of the dot-com bubble. Well, since then, he's built a few other companies, but today he's working on a SaaS business that helps you write books in a lot less time. In fact, it's a SaaS company that kind of integrates with AI, and you can actually write and publish a book in about 3 days. In this episode, he talks about what works and what doesn't work with marketing, and he breaks down his entrepreneurial journey. All right, please welcome Bo Bennett. Bo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So before we dive into your business background, could you share with the audience something unique that most people don't know about you?
Most people probably don't know that I wrote, produced, animated, voiced, and I guess published a sitcom, an adult sitcom. I don't want to take all the credit for it. I have a partner that helped me with some of the writing, and I have a team of probably like 15 very talented voice actors that help me voice it. So it's a great production. It's really fun. It's called Squat, and it's on YouTube. But if you Google like on YouTube squat, you're going to get all these videos about how to do the best kind of squats. It's called just go to squatspotfitness.com, and that'll jump you over to my YouTube channel. But it's a very entertaining sitcom. At least I think so.
I will check it out. That's awesome. Definitely unique. Nobody on this podcast has ever talked about being in the TV or movie industry before. So sweet. We'll talk about movies a little bit later, but first things first, I want to learn about your business background, and then I want to learn about a business you're working on today that seems to be kind of connecting books with AI. We'll define that in a little bit, but I was reading about you offline. You built a business in your 20s and sold it for $20 million. Could you give us the name of the business? What did it do? And we're going to really unpack that journey for our listeners.
The name of the business was called Ad Graphics. It actually started as a graphic design firm, thus the name. And then very quickly it transitioned to web hosting. But we kept the name. Why? I don't know. But that's what it was basically. It was not just web hosting too. You got to put yourself into the context of when this took place. It was web hosting in 1995. This is before most people knew what the internet was, let alone web hosting. So it was a real challenge convincing businesses, believe it or not, that, hey, you really need this thing called a website. And that was our general goal, to convince people they needed a website and then provide the tools for them and build it for them and so forth.
Got it. So was this kind of a service business? Were you actually providing a service, or did you have some kind of early SaaS model?
It was mostly, it wasn't, it's funny. I wouldn't define it as a service because we didn't really do website design.
Okay.
We provided, as a programmer, I created the software that allowed people to upload their own websites and create their own websites online using a web-based hosting system. So, you're probably thinking right now, everybody has that. Well, yeah, now, but before, this was like completely unheard of. And that's why I started the company, because the people I was working with back in 1994, it was incredibly archaic to make a website. Yeah. You had to like go like programming text-based with Unix, and everything was coding with HTML, like text files, and it was really old school. So this was really a groundbreaking business. The business was web hosting. We were basically renting space on the server, and we tried to minimize the service aspect of it as much as possible. And we had a whole bunch of resellers that would build websites for the clients. So when they needed that service, we just kind of referred them over to them.
Got it. So I'm looking at two different categories. Your web hosting service providers out there, such as a GoDaddy or a HostGator. There's also Network Solutions are a few that come to mind. And then I think about the website builders that have become a reality these days that kind of replaced WordPress. You look at sites like Squarespace, Wix, and Shopify. So this sounds like it was closer to the GoDaddy business model.
Yeah, it might even been a hybrid between the two, because it was a lot more than just websites. We had, well, I guess again, it's not that mind blowing today, but we had a lot of different software and service kind of built into this. So people did want e-commerce. We had e-commerce solutions, and they didn't have to build an e-commerce store. It was just really a web-based thing that they just plop things into, and then they have their store.
Sure.
So it was, yeah, I think it would be best described as a hybrid, kind of like Squarespace, but kind of like a GoDaddy as well.
Interesting. Gosh, you were way ahead of the curve on that. I mean, I remember the 90s, like building a website. It was, I mean, you had to know HTML. There was like, I don't think WordPress was really even a thing back
No.
then. No, good for you. Okay. So I assume you worked with small, mid-sized businesses. Was that your target?
Yes, yeah, definitely small. We noticed that a lot of the large businesses were like getting their own hosting, like in-house servers, and trying to do it themselves, and that quickly failed. Like that, they realized that that's not a good idea with all of the overhead. Especially when sites like services like Amazon AWS
Right.
came about, where you can just lease space on Amazon servers and have them take care of like where 95% of all the headaches come from. And they do a fantastic job. We've been using Amazon for our hosting, since 2000.
Yeah. I remember running into companies, even in we're talking post 2010, that still had on-prem server rooms with like fans and air conditioners. And I'm like, oh, like 1995 called and want their server farm back. Like, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you said, AWS is great. Azure is great. Even Google Cloud, Rackspace. I mean, the list goes on. These are all cloud solutions. You don't have to have a room
Oh my
in a,
goodness.
in a
But
building.
that's how we started. That's how
Yeah.
iGraphics started. We had a literal room. We moved into a new building, and we had to convince the landlord to install a generator. We had to pay for it. So we had 24-hour backup. We had to get T1 lines into, which is kind of funny when you think about it now. Like T1 line is, I don't even remember the speed, but
those.
it's horrible compared to what's available today. And this was for an entire server farm. And then the room had to be like properly air conditioned. And we constantly had problems with the air conditioner crashing and it being too hot, servers crashing, like drives going. I mean, it was like a nightmare to run. I hated the physical part of it. We were actually up in Vermont once on vacation. I'm from Massachusetts, and that's where the server farm was, our server farm. And as soon as we got up to Vermont, I got all these notices like the servers crashed, and I had to drive back from Vermont in order to take care of the issues. That was my life for essentially 6 years. And then after that, I vowed never to deal with that again. And I ended up buying a data center like a year after. So
just a glutton for punishment.
Exactly.
All right, so let's keep diving into this. I'm gonna ask a few questions about sales and marketing. We know that that has kind of evolved since, we're looking at 20 years later.
Sure.
But let's dive into the numbers a little bit with your customers. I assume you charge them like a monthly fee or a yearly fee. Is that correct?
Yes, most of them paid monthly, and we had a few different plans, starting at like $10, going up to hundreds if they're going to get a dedicated server with us.
Gotcha. Okay. And then your acquisition model, were you pitching customers or did you put up some kind of referral-based system?
So this is another interesting story because remember, 1995, we started we called it a reseller program, but essentially it was an affiliate program 2 years before Amazon came out with theirs. And we had, like, our customers, we basically turned them into affiliates, and they were the ones selling the servers for us. So all of our customers had businesses, they had websites, and basically the pitch was, hey, do you want a cool website like this? Do you really need to host your business? Click here. And then we did the whole referral with the cookies and with IP address tracking. Pretty basic, pretty archaic at the time. I mean, now, but at the time it was
advanced,
very advanced, and it did the trick. It really motivated our resellers to go out and sell. They got paid for it. They were very happy. We were happy, and it really exploded the business.
That's when you empower your customers to share your product. That's a brilliant model.
Now here's
I
want to
give
give a quick, interesting aside. I basically tried to create affiliate program like a year ago for all the stuff we do now. And like nobody is interested. Not that our stuff isn't interesting. I mean, every now and then I get somebody, oh, I'd love to refer somebody, but people generally don't do it. Back when we did the affiliate program, people were like jumping in for the opportunity to be able to do this. But the affiliate market is so incredibly crowded now
It
that
is.
it's just all white noise. So we ended up shutting down that affiliate program just because it wasn't enough interest. And I think I did a better job this time than I did 25 years ago. But it's just how much the industry has changed
Right.
that makes the difference.
No, that's really good perspective because I actually was talking to a gentleman recently that makes all his money off affiliates. And he's like, if you really want to get ahead as an affiliate, you need an audience, you need systems,
Right.
like you got to take it serious. Whereas what you were talking about was simple conversation. Hey, check this server option out. You should sign up. Pretty passive stuff. These days, it is a full-on job. And it's a lot of work. We have an affiliate program with Ticker, our main business, and 99% of the people that join the program don't make any money
Yeah.
because they don't have an audience. They're not taking it serious, which I don't blame them. They've got their own day job. But like, if you want to make money as an affiliate, you got to be all in. Yeah. All right. So you started this in 1995. When did you sell? Did you sell it before the .com? Oh,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
did. Okay.
It was 2001.
Okay.
And I think when we signed the papers, it was after the bust, but
Yeah.
everything was in motion. And I hate to sound like I'm too much of a prognosticator, but I saw it coming. I mean, anybody who lived through that,
Mhm.
it should have been crystal clear what was happening, like how crazy these evaluations were
Yeah.
and what people were paying for these companies, these .coms. And you look at the product and the service, like what are they doing? What are they
Yeah.
selling? Where like it's like nothing. They're not
Yep.
making money, but yet people are just throwing money at them. So you knew like this is not sustainable. This can't happen. So we were evaluated at I think like four times revenue, four
Okay.
times yearly revenue, I think, or monthly. I forgot. Uh, but it was like an incredible amount. There's no way that our company was worth that much in today's market. Like
Yeah.
if we were selling a product today and making the same amount of revenue, there's no way somebody would have paid $20 million for us. So that's why I jumped on the opportunity. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And that was 2000, like in March of 2001, when we actually sold. I'd have to check the historical records to see when the
Sure.
bust actually happened, but I knew it was around there. And unfortunately for me, the majority of that $20 million was in stock in the company that bought us.
Oh,
And they ended up tanking after like a year or two. And I couldn't get all of my money out, but we did some things with like some financial papers or something. It was a way for us to get a good chunk of the money out, but not all of it. So at the end of the day, I ended up getting, I think it was like 12 million. And I like to tell the story that I lost $8 million because that's more interesting.
right. People are, trying to avoid losses.
Yeah.
That is a common problem I see with people selling a business is the company buying them is going to have, it could be like all stock, it could be a mix between stock and cash. You got to kind of weigh your options there. Like, do you have high conviction? This is where, like, we at Ticker, we analyze businesses or look at businesses that are going to be around more than 2 months out, right? It's like we want strong businesses, Warren Buffett style. We're looking 10 years out. And I want strong conviction that, yeah, my stock is going to be safe. In your case, it's like, oh boy, I don't know. Like you said, I don't know if you're getting my money, but still, like, I look at how you came out. 12 million is pretty good considering there are a lot of businesses that literally slap .com on their name and they provide no valuable service. And now they're a VC backed company that's valued at 50 million. It's like, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good for you for getting out. Still, that's a decent take home. Now, did you have investors in this business?
No, no.
Nice.
It was all bootstrapped. We started with a couple credit cards and we just grew it from there.
The hustle is real.
Yeah.
Put it on credit. Yeah, nice. All right. So after that, let's just briefly kind of go over the timeline here, and then we'll kind of touch on this new business you're working on today. So kind of lay out the timeline here at a high level.
Yeah. So that was 2001 when I sold. I spent 2001 to 2002 writing a book called Year to Success. That was the first book that I wrote. And now I have about like 12 different books that I've written over the years. But that was the first one I wrote, and it was really about success, motivation, kind of capitalizing on the sale of that company. And at the same time, in 2001, I started a company called Archie Boy Holdings, which I knew that I wanted to do something, but I wasn't sure what. So it was a holding company for whatever activities, ventures I wanted to do. So from 2002 to about 2010 was a strange time for me, like jumping into a whole bunch of different ventures, like trying different things in the real world and online. And then even just like taking some time off. I spent like 3 years of my life debating on debate boards for for like an embarrassingly large amount of time each day. But that was, that's what led me to go back to school and get a PhD. That whole experience, and really study logic, philosophy, psychology. So it wasn't really wasted. It seemed
Mhm.
like a waste of time, and it was just 3 years of being angry, because that's what happens when you're constantly debating people. Uh, and then in 2010, I started my first company to help with publishing. It was called eBook It, and
Okay.
that allowed people to like create ebooks, and we created the ebooks for them, and then we help them publish it. So we have relationships with like all the major vendors. And then we over the years we've expanded that to from ebooks to ebooks and print books and audiobooks, and full book marketing services. And now we have the companies that use AI technology to actually write the books for the authors, which is just amazing,
Wow.
like mind blowing stuff. And it does a beautiful job. And then we do all the publishing for them, and the narration of the book is done via AI, like cloned voices. So narrators could come to us and give us a sample of their voice. We clone it, and it sounds
Wow.
like amazing. And it's not our technology. We're using technology from some of the major players out there, but we've basically created the interface for the publishing industry.
Gotcha. So this sounds like a more of a B2C play. Consumers can go get their book idea
Mhm.
created. Is that correct?
Yes, for the most part.
Got it. Okay. Well, walk us through the model a little bit. Is this like, a per use? I think of like, we use OpenAI for a part of our tool, so it's based on amount of characters, and I think characters is the fact there might be something else, but that gives you okay, so this is how much you're going to spend per month.
The BookBud.ai business is a monthly service for the most part, so
Okay.
people could subscribe to it. That's where the vast majority, not vast, that's where the majority of the income comes from. Whereas we also give users the ability just to buy what we call characters. And you know how OpenAI charges via characters, that's how they charge us on the back end. We charge our clients via characters. So if they just want to do like one book done and finished, then they could just pay us like a higher amount just to do that, and they could do it on their own. Or if they want to create books on a regular basis and really get into the kind of the publishing business and make money with the books, then they subscribe to one of the plans. And one of the plans even goes up to 30 books a day you can create. So that's where the vast majority of the revenues come from. And it is a do-it-yourself platform. We do have an option called the ghostwriting service, where people have no clue what they're doing. No matter how easy we make it, how many videos we provide, online courses, like some people still just don't get it. But these are the people that I've worked with since 1995 that just don't get the internet in general. Where's the what's the cup holder on my computer for? The CD-ROM.
Nice.
Those kind of people.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's always going to be that portion of it. So we have a service aspect of the business, but the vast majority is kind of the do-it-yourself.
Got it. So let's dive into that a little bit. Like, let's say I have an idea. And I'll use a real example here. So over the last 3 years, I've interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs like yourself and learning the reality of like creating passive income. A lot of people say like, it's made up. Mostly, yes, they're depending on your model. Some take a little more work than others, but I was actually going to kind of summarize what I would say are the 10 best business models you can create. If you're like sick of your corporate job, you're trying to come up with an idea, this book will really summarize like, here are 10 business models you can pursue that have legs probably over the next 10 years for sure, and break down everything. And right now I really just have a high level of like what those 10 are, but I need time. I don't have time right now. I need time to
Right?
write the book.
Yeah, that's
So
perfect.
what could I do then? Go to this service and would help
Yeah.
me write it?
That's perfect because you have those 10 ideas. So you could start with creating the table of contents, and you could feed it into the table of contents. You could say, include these 10 topics somewhere in the table of contents. AI will come up with a revised table of contents, kind of filling in the details. And then you go to the next step, and then it'll pick out some titles for you, like not just cool titles, but really marketable titles. Titles are very important. So it gives you a choice of like 25, and you could kind of mix and match the subtitles with the titles, put it together, and get something that's really good. And then you moved to the layout. You have the
Mhm.
table of contents. Now you could define each section, and this is where you send it to AI. So, for example, if you have like uh, opportunity number one for passive income, and you have like a bunch of notes, like here's what I want to say about it, you just feed that in for that section. And so for each section, you could tell AI what you want to include in that section, and it will do that. It will fill in all the gaps. And with nonfiction books, it does an amazing job doing that. But I always tell people, if you have something very specific in mind, and as an author, you may
Mhm.
have already written this book completely in your mind. And that's where it becomes a problem because you know exactly what you want to say, but AI may take it in a different direction. So it depends on how much information you feed it and how specific you are. And it'll use that information, but it will fill in the gaps with its own information. And when it comes to nonfiction and it comes to information that AI has access to, through like the public record, how the model was trained, it will do an amazing job by filling in all of that information accurately and persuasively and with very articulate writing as well. It gets to be a problem when people try to ask AI to fill in the gaps of, let's say, like their history. They're trying to write an autobiography.
Oh, sure.
AI will make up a whole bunch of crazy crap about you, right? And they tell me, "Hey, this isn't me. I never did this." Well, AI doesn't know who you
Yeah.
are. Like, unless you're some public figure, it doesn't know. And there's a big warning there. It's like you got to realize what AI does know and has access to versus what it has no idea. And when it has no idea and it's asked to write about something, it's going to get creative and make crap up. And sometimes that's okay.
Mhm.
But when people are writing nonfiction books, typically they don't want it to get too creative.
Right. So it sounds like you kind of have to monitor it a little bit. Like you put in the ideas, it'll spit back like larger chunks of content. You have to kind of review it, and then do you kind of reply back to it and say, hey, looking good, but could you rephrase it or maybe make changes here and there? Is that kind of how it works?
Well, it is an interactive process, but not like that. Like
Okay.
once it writes it, then you should, if you do things correctly, you should at that point be able to like when it writes it, you should be, that's good. That's what you should say. Like, okay, this is great. The other option is like, nah, this isn't what I'm going for. And then you just kind of go back and you review all of the information that you fed it previously, and you see what you have to change. And I always tell
Uh,
people, you don't write the whole book at once, because you start with, just send like a couple chapters, a couple sections actually, and review those sections. And if you're thinking, okay, AI's got it, this is what I want,
mhm.
then you complete the rest. But if the first sections that's not quite there, then you revise your earlier information. So yes, it is kind of like an interactive process, And that's the way it works. It's kind of simplified in that way.
Gotcha. Can you tell us, what do you charge for this product?
The book, like to write a book, ranges from $40 per book if you're just buying like one time characters, what we call non-expiring characters,
Yep.
meaning that you could just buy like as many characters as you want, and then they could sit in your account, and you could take as long as you want to write the book, and you could write it multiple books if you have a lot of characters. So it's typically $40 per book. We consider a book like 100 6x9 pages. It's about
Mhm.
20,000 words, 200,000 characters. Maybe my math is a little bit off, but I think it might be 30,000 words or something. And in any case, it's your typical nonfiction book. And then you based on your the different plans that you subscribe to, you can get that price down to $15 per book.
Gotcha. And is this something you started on your own, or do you have partners?
No, it started on my own.
Good for you. And how big is your team?
It's Well, that's always an interesting question, isn't it? Like who is actually part of your
Contractors.
team? Like,
Right.
yeah, because we work with a lot of different contractors that do different things. And I would kind of say that they're part of my team, but I wouldn't necessarily put their names and pictures on our website. We have like our core team, let's call it, would be myself, a tech guy I've been working with for ages, who kind of
Mhm.
manages the server, like the higher end of like keeping the server up to date. Um, and then my daughter, she does the ghostwriting services, so she works with clients directly who want us to do everything for them. And then I've got like two other people that help me with all the like the marketing of the books and the submissions and a lot of the project management. So about
Got it.
five of us.
Nice. Our model is very similar. I'm actually the only technical employee of the company. Otherwise, it's all contractors, six or seven. But yeah, in this world we live in, it's like you've got the right tech, you've got Zoom, people have the right tools on their computer. You can move quickly without all the
Yeah.
paperwork of hiring somebody. Um, some of the toughest parts with building a business, a lot of entrepreneurs get hung up with sales and marketing. So what's your growth strategy?
Well, as you alluded to earlier, sales and marketing has changed quite a bit in the
Mhm.
last 30 years. When we started, again, we were using kind of the affiliate model. And I don't even remember if we did anything else. I don't think we did. I
Mhm.
think I might have played around with like putting an ad in a newspaper or something, like really old school marketing, but that didn't work. With BookBud, it's almost exclusively through Google Ads.
Oh,
That
wow.
seems to be that we've found that silver bullet, that elusive silver bullet, where if you put in $10, you get 15 or $20 back. So, like with so many different businesses and products I've tried over the years, like Google Ads just did not work because we're competing typically against people who like selling cars, selling insurance. They've got they make a major amount of money with each sale, and you compete internationally. So it just got really competitive, and it basically priced us out when we're selling like, a $50 book promotion where we make like 10 or 15 bucks on it. Similarly, with trying to sell books, I played around with Google
Mhm.
advertising and similar type of advertising, and you can't realistically make money on when you make like a couple dollars per book, and you have to pay like that much for ads. But
Right.
with a recurring service like this, with a subscription based service, it really does work if you have the right number of subscriptions with the right cancellation balance, and you could keep your ads really targeted. So we seem to have found that, and we're gonna ride this wave as long as we can, because if anybody knows who did things similar like this before, it's not consistent. It won't always stay like
Right.
this. You constantly have to fiddle with it week after week, or even like month after month, to make sure that you're still getting that same kind of return. And at any day, this could just stop. There could be like a flood of competitors that come on and price us out and
Mhm.
work up the bidding on Google, so we don't make money anymore. I mean, a lot of things could happen.
I want to unpack that a little bit because we And I always like to give a real life example. So we tried two different agencies in 2023 for
Mm.
advertising. Both failed with flying colors, like not able to generate any revenue for us. Big talk, no results.
Oh,
Awesome.
geez.
And that's the name of the game. The listeners out there, if you don't already know, like Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, it's hard to make money. It is really hard to make money. And if you find somebody that actually is, that's the moment where you have my attention. What are you doing? So let's hear about that right now. What are you like? Did you have a trial and error process? You learn from your mistakes, or how are you making money on ads?
Before I answer that, I want to echo what you just said because I literally went through over 10 different agencies
Yes.
like in the past like 5 years or so. Not for this AI, but for like book marketing or like bookmarketing.pro, the company that we were running. And everyone, they give us the same story. First, they show us like an incredibly impressive client list. They show us screenshots of how they made their clients
Hmm.
millions of dollars. And then they charge like a ridiculous sum to get the campaign going. And they make all these promises. And not one of them, out of well over 10, not one of them has even come close to doing anything that's even considered respectable in terms of returns. And as you
Yeah.
said, like their business model is all like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
It's if they could get you to give you their money, they make the money, and you lose the money, they don't care. It's kind of like when people invest in business and like invest in the stock market. You've got the people who sell the stocks or whatever. They make money no matter what. They don't care. And that's how these companies operate. So yes, I've been through plenty of them, and I could echo that with complete and total passion. Be careful, stay away, and you're
Yeah.
much better off like just learning some of the basics. Watch YouTube. YouTube has a lot of great
Yeah.
videos with people showing you how to do things with new updates, some tips and tricks. And Google is actually really helpful too. Facebook not so much, but Google they'll work with you to help you refine your campaign. So now to your question, like
Hmm.
what did we do? How did we make this work? Well, I think as much as I'd like to give myself credit for some brilliant process that took me to where I am today, I think I have to credit the product as and the product and the market mostly with
Hmm.
this success because it's something that people are incredibly interested in and something that people desperately want. So when you have that kind of combination, I think like virtually any ads will work extremely well, as opposed to if you're selling something not that's necessarily like a stupid product or uninteresting, but something that maybe you even have a crowded marketplace when there's just too much competition. So there's a lot of factors that go in. And that's why I
Yeah.
said before, I'm going to keep on writing this until I can.
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to go like this forever. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where the amount we're putting in is just far outweighs the amount we're getting back. I think that will happen, but now it's not.
Right.
And to give you, I guess, some things that I did do, I just started low. Like I started with it with like $100 a day. And I know for some people that may be high, but then I moved from like say $3,000 a month, we moved up to like $30,000 a month in ad spend, which I think is a lot compared to what I typically
Yeah.
do. But I know a lot of companies spend like astronomical
Yeah.
amount of money on ads that puts my 30 grand to shame. But I didn't just kind of jump in with 30,000. I figured, okay, well, if 3,000 works, let's see if 5,000 works. Let's double it. So every week I just monitor the results and I keep like detailed statistics as a social scientist, as a data guy. I'd like to keep numbers to see what's going on with the number of subscriptions, cancellations, like what is the length between a subscription and cancellation? Why are people canceling? The number of people that sign up, the ratio, how much are people spending on like services, and of course that goes to kind of financing a lot of this. So there's just a big spreadsheet that I have, and I just keep track week after week. And
Hmm.
when I see things like every week, I'll make like a tweak here and there, and I'll see if that's a good tweak or a bad tweak. And if it's a bad tweak, I kind of go back and then I'll make like a new tweak. And that's a good tweak. Good. I'll keep that one and I'll keep on changing it. I think one of the big problems that a lot of people make on doing this is, well, they're not data scientists. And you don't have to be a data scientist, but you have to have like at least a decent scientific mind, at least decent when it comes to dealing with data. And you have to know the concept of statistical significance, because that's incredibly important. People will see like they'll make 100 sales in 1 week. They'll make a change and they may get 95 sales the next week. And they'll determine that change to be a failure. Why? Because they made 5 fewer sales. Well, that's not the way it works. That's like within a very reasonable statistical significance, which means that you have like a margin of error. And it's just, you're never going to get like, if you keep everything the same, you're never going to get the same amount every day or every week. Like over time, it's probably going to be the same, but there's a lot of variation. And that's the way data works.
Yeah.
That's the way numbers work. So you can't be freaked out by little jumps in data that really have nothing to do with the changes you make. You have to, I guess, be wise enough to recognize that this is just noise in the data and just look at the overall trend and where things are going and then act on those trends.
That's one of the best overviews of like ad spend I've ever, and thank you for your transparency there. It's the best I've ever heard when explaining ads. And I've talked to agencies, I've talked to gurus out there, and what you're talking about is 100% spot on. Is you want an Excel sheet with like, because your first ad you create that you think is going to make you money is most likely not going to work. Like
right.
they'll start with like 20 or 30 or 40 different ads, and they'll, A/B test against each other. And it's a lot of money going out the door for about 3 to 6 months to optimize that from, like, let's say you start with 50, you optimize down to 40, then down to 30, then down to 20. And then you start to figure out, okay, what are the best performing ads based on the copy and the colors and the photos and everything in between. It is very scientific. I mean, people think about, oh, you need to be creative. It's like, gosh, I'd say it's probably like 20 to 30% creative and probably about 70 to 80% analytical to do ads right.
Right. And even nowadays, you could use AI to help you with the creativity if you don't have it there. And I guess you could use AI to help with the analytics as well. But
I like your approach there. Start small, go to YouTube, start with $100, dial that up as you go. And if you're seeing results, then that's when you really turn on the fire hose. Unfortunately, I see too many people, they turn on the fire hose without any testing and they throw all that money out the window.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. Yeah. Anything else you're doing with sales and marketing?
I want to get back into Facebook ads. I used Facebook ads for, I think this is kind of funny. I used Facebook ads for Book Marketing Pro, and those worked well. I definitely got the money's worth. But Book Marketing Pro is more a service-based business because there's stuff we have to do to help people market their books. And it works and it works well, but I stopped doing that because this BookBud AI is more of like the passive income type of business where I don't have to do anything and the money still comes in. That's not, of course, that's an exaggeration. I do a heck of a lot of work in the back end to keep things going and support and stuff, but I don't have to do it like per client. There's not work I have to do per client. So we've been putting our money into Google. And I tried putting ads on Facebook for bookbud.ai and for my other company, Author Voices, that allows people to narrate their book with cloned voices and AI-based voices. And you wouldn't believe like the hatred and the vitriol in the comments from these businesses. People are terrified of AI. They think it's like demonic. Some of them do. They think it's going to like kill our society. They think it's cheating. They think it's unethical. I mean, the comments that come, I just couldn't handle it. I mean, there's no way an ad would do well with that kind of hatred and all those little mean faces on the ad. And I can't keep clearing them out every day. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to put that money into an ad where people are actually looking for that service, not that people who
Sure.
happen to come upon them. So that's an interesting distinction that I made over the years. Like the Google ads are ads where people are actually looking for what you have to offer, and that's how you match them up with the keywords and stuff. Whereas the Facebook ads are more about like population driven ads. If you think like my services would be great for authors, aspiring authors. And they would. I mean, that's my market, but that's only a fraction of my market. The other fraction of the authors are people who can't stand AI and think that it's taking away their jobs. And so you got to keep that in mind too. So I did Facebook, and I will do Facebook again for book marketing because that worked well again. Once I'm ready to kind of pick that up, but with the book bud or the author voices that have the AI technology behind it, it was a pretty much a disaster for me.
Interesting. Good to hear your perspective. And that's funny you say those things about AI. The comments all over the spectrum, like this is a tool for good, this is a tool for bad, it's going to take over
Right.
the world. And my thoughts are no, it's not, and only can access a certain amount of data, and you got to be able to train it ongoing, and if you really want to use it to your advantage. But anyway, I digress. Let's take a quick commercial break. Have you ever lost money in the stock market? Maybe you saw something on YouTube, read something on Reddit, or maybe you heard something from a friend. Yeah, I think we've all been there. Most people lose money in the stock market because of emotions. What if you could remove emotions from investing? And what if there was an easy button for investing? Introducing Ticker, a platform that helps investors manage their own investments confidently. It's perfect for beginners, and it will save advanced investors a lot of time. Check this out. Here's some of the key features. All right, we have stocks, ETFs, and crypto. We also have a watch list feature, which is my favorite feature. It's the set it and forget it feature. If something changes on your watch list, you get notified. That way you can sell a stock before you lose a lot of money. We also have a portfolio tracker and custom alerts on stocks, ETFs, and crypto. Now, I could talk about Ticker all day, but don't take my word for it. Go to Trustpilot and see what our customers have to say, or we have a 4.9 out of 5. And if you're interested, you can join Ticker for free. But no, this is really good to know about your model. Exciting to hear you're building a tool that can help people write books. It's a very intimidating process for a lot of people, and you can really streamline that journey for them.
Yeah, and even if it's just for like writing your first book, I think so many so many people. Let's forget about authors. So many people have these ideas, fantastic ideas for books, but they just never get around to it.
Right.
And it's not just a time thing. It's also I don't know where to start. You know, I've never written a book. Like, who do I go to? Like, there's so many questions, and I understand that, and that's what BookBud is great for too. Look, use BookBud, get your first book out there. Just throw the ideas out there, let it
Mhm.
write it for you. It's such a simple process. Within 3 hours, you could be a published author. And now you've done it. You've paved the way. And now if you want to write your second book the old-fashioned way, go ahead and do it. But you already have your name out there, and you've already been through the process. So the second time's a lot easier.
Right on. All right, let's transition to the rapid fire round. This is the part of the episode where we get to find out who Bo really is. If you can, try to answer each question in about 15 seconds or less. You ready?
Go.
All right. So what is your favorite podcast?
Favorite podcast is probably NPR. I like to keep up to date.
Right on. All right. What is a recent book you read and would recommend?
The book I'm reading right now is the book on longevity by Attia, I think his name is. And so far, I'm enjoying it. I would recommend it. Important if people want to stay youthful for a long time.
Interesting. You have my attention.
I mean, look at me. I'm 80. It's not true.
Okay, I'm buying the book immediately if that's the case. Nice. All right. This is a fun one. What is your favorite movie?
That's always a tough question. And I don't mean to skirt the question, but because it depends what I'm in the mood for. Like, for example, comedy, like overall comedy drama, like maybe Roxanne by Steve Martin back in 1980, 87, I think. Wonderful movie. I love it. I usually say that that's my favorite movie all around, but I have so many favorite movies.
Steve Martin, classic. I won't go off on a tangent here. Just worked through Only Murders in the Building with him and
Oh yeah,
Martin Short.
Martin
Yeah.
Short,
Yeah. So
Selena
good.
Gomez. Great team.
All right. What is the worst advice you ever received?
I think the worst advice is something that a lot of people receive as well. And that's you could do anything you want to as long as you put your mind to it. No, you can't.
Mhm.
I can never be a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I can't do. We have physical and genetic limitations. So don't waste your whole life just trying to be persistent. Find out, kind of go with the flow. Find out what you really love doing, what you enjoy doing, and what you're good at, and pursue that.
There you go. All right. Flip that equation. What's the best advice you ever received?
No, you can't do anything you want to do.
There you go. Direct. All right. And the last question here. This is a time machine question. If you could go back in time to give your younger self advice, what age would you visit and what would you say?
I would go back to sometime in the early 90s when probably late 80s when I was in high school still. And I would tell myself all about the big tech boom and all of the people like the head of Google and InfoSeek,
Amazon.
Lycos, and Steve Jobs, and all those people. And I would say, move to California and become friends with these people and go into business with them.
That's great advice, actually. Nice. All right. And where can the audience reach you?
I have two different websites. One is for my personal books that I've written, and these are the books I've written the old-fashioned way, manually. You go to bobennett.com. And the other website is my business website, where you could go to all the websites that I discussed. They're all linked at archieboy.com.
Nice. All right, Bo. Thank you so much for your time. This is great.
Yeah, it's been great to meet you. Take care.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.